Hi, I'm Jay of the Dead from Jay of the Dead's new horror movies. I've got a quick review for you of a brand new 2023 horror movie that had some festival play in 2022, but I believe it just recently became available in the US on VOD. The film is called Bite, and it was co-written and directed by James Owen. It was made in the UK, and this little horror story is set in the UK. Now here's the premise with no spoilers. After two amateur lady thieves enrage the local criminal kingpin through a botched robbery, they make an even graver mistake by preying upon a terrifying elderly couple. Okay, that's the premise. So when you start watching Bite, you can tell right from the outset that it's going to be a serious business and it's going to kind of go hardcore as a horror film, because right in the beginning, we see some body parts like an eyeball and such in the drain of a bathtub. When you see that, you think this could go one of two ways. This could be really cool or this could be really lame. And it ends up being a cool little movie. So then we see this young woman, our protagonist, Nina. She appears to need some help. She's out hitchhiking in the rain when an elderly woman picks her up. And at this point, Bite begins feeling kind of like a drama. It's all pleasant and everything. But that's not where the story actually starts. The film jumps back 2 hours earlier, where Nina and her small crew of thieves attempt to knock over or rob an illegal dogfighting ring hosted by the local crime boss. Side note here, the dogfighting is not a major part of the plot. It's just peripheral. But on the soundtrack, during these scenes, they've incorporated electronic dog barks into the score, and it's hilarious. Now, I wanted to include a sample of that for you here, but I don't know if YouTube would flag this review and give me grief about it. But if you watch the film, listen for that. Anyway, at this point in the movie, it feels like we have a crime action type of film going on. Well, let's just say that these thieves are amateurs and it doesn't go very well. In fact, they become marked for death by these gangsters. So Nina and her girlfriend are on the run. And eventually we end up with Nina hitchhiking. The old lady takes her in, and Nina learns that this old couple has a little nest egg stash of cash. So she decides that she's going to try to rob this couple, so Nina and her girlfriend can skip town and avoid getting whacked by the local crime syndicate. Unfortunately, though, the old couple has nefarious intentions for Nina, and she is captured in a veritable house of horrors. So at this point, once the horror kicks in, Bite becomes its strongest. And with this movie, I would say it's the little things that make it work. For instance, I have had this lifelong complaint, at least as long as I've been watching horror movies, that when people get smacked in the head with a baseball bat, the Foley sound usually doesn't ring true to me. It doesn't sound like I think it would sound. So up until this point, the best baseball bat head smacking sound effect that I've heard is in Quentin Tarantino's Inglourious Basterds, which isn't really a horror movie per se. But Bite here does have a baseball bat whack to the head scene, and it sounds exactly right. But I'm going to be careful. I don't want to say too much about this movie because, like I said, it's the little surprises that make it fun. But let me just say, one of my biggest fears is being held captive in a basement and essentially tortured and cut up by psychopaths. So Bite does press on that fear for me. However, some of the characters are quirky enough that at times this movie feels a little bit like a dark comedy, almost like it's skating on the line of becoming a horror comedy sometimes, just a little bit. I mean, this basement of horrors, it gets pretty wild and chaotic, so once it gets kind of wacky in there, it breaks the fear spell for me. It's not as scary. Even so, I will tell you, Bite is gruesome. There's a decapitated head that looks pretty convincing, which is another rare thing for horror movies. But yeah, it has some torture scenes, some cutting off body parts, and in some cases, I mean, it really shows it. So it's stronger than I thought it would be, and I was pleasantly surprised that it had so many decent scenes. Just another couple short examples. There's a slash with a meat cleaver. It hits this person's arm, and it looks real. It looks like they really slashed somebody's arm with a meat cleaver, and then it's a screwdriver or maybe a scratch awl. I remember the name of that from my shop class, AWL, that's stabbed into somebody's ear, and boy, that made me wince. And there's another scene where a dude is screaming because he's being tortured, and it is pretty convincing. It sounds like it's really happening to him. But just to kind of wrap up, I'm not going to reveal what the old couple's reasons are, but they do have a couple of purposes for the people that they capture and cut up. And one of them you can probably guess pretty easily, but the second reveal you will never guess in a million years, and it is wild. On kind of a melancholy note here, the actor who plays Gerald in this, which is the crazy old man of the torture house, his real name was Stuart Sessions. The film is dedicated in memory of him because I guess he died within the last couple of years. But if this is his last performance, it's a doozy. He goes out having fun and portraying a total nut job. So you can rent Bite to stream on Amazon. It's like $2.99 at the time of this recording, and I think it's totally worth a rental. I'm going to rate Bite a 6.5 out of 10, and I'm calling it a rental recommendation for horror fans who like gruesome stuff. And if you love horror movies and you want more reviews of brand new 2023 horror releases, then like and subscribe to our YouTube channel here and check out our epic audio horror podcast at newhorrormovies.com and anywhere you find podcasts. So remember, be sure to visit newhorrormovies.com or I will bite you.